Good morning, and thank you for joining me. This is Jerry. I am the owner and creator behind Heart and Hand Creations. I am working on a scrapbook folio, and I'm going to be making some pages that have interactive elements. And I thought I would go through the process and show you how to make some of these interactive elements for your pages in case you want to include them on a scrapbook that you're working on. But first, there are some pretty general tools that you'll need besides your paper embellishments, keepsakes, and photos. So I'm going to go through and show you some of the tools that I have readily available within arm's reach when I'm working on a new project. Okay? So with that, what you need is your paper, some scissors, some way to press your paper down. And I have seen people use credit cards or gift cards, and that's fine. That works perfectly well. Just make sure that when you're pressing it down, it doesn't bear down into the paper and cause creasing in places that you don't want it to. I'll have my glue and my paper towel and pencil. And so that is really what you need for your supplies, your tools, to make any of the interactive elements that go into your scrapbook and to adhere photographs. Oh, and I need the tape. I always have that close at hand. So pretty basic tools, just make sure they're photo friendly. And thank you. And with that, we'll get started. Okay, now we're going to make a waterfall feature. And I've already cut everything that I'm going to need to size. And I have it here in front of me, and I'll show you how and what sizes to use to cut your waterfall feature. But the waterfall, for those that may not know, is it lays flat in your book. Some people turn them horizontally. I usually put mine vertical, but it has these flip up flaps all through, and this waterfall feature, because they kind of cascade down on each other, you can see, and it's a great way to compactly store and display your photos in a scrapbook album. So you can see it just flips up, and what I have at the back is a base where everything has been adhered with a hinge. And I'll show you, it's very easy to make. It's not going to take any time at all. So this is called a waterfall feature. And to keep this close when you're flipping pages or opening your album or folio, in my case, I'm making a folio, is I put double-sided tape on the back. You can see that I've got 3 rows here of 2-inch. So this is a 6-inch wide waterfall feature. And what I do is I use ribbon or seam binding to hold this close. You can put one length of ribbon across here, adhere it down on the back, and when you turn it over, you have the loose ends and you tie it up in a bow, and this keeps that down. What I generally do for waterfall, though, is I have mine going vertically so that it comes around on this side and holds all the pages together this way. I have tried to use magnets. I don't find them as effective because the magnet, you usually put it in the top flap and then somewhere underneath. And once you put your embellishments and your photos, this can get a little bulky, and I think that the magnets lose some of their hold. So I tend to use ribbon or seam binding, crinkled seam binding, something like that. And like I say, I put mine around this way. So then the bow is in the center and holds all the pages together and makes it really secure and safe. And it looks cute. Some people do it this way, which is fine too. It holds this top flap down, which holds those down too. And you could put it at the top, kind of up here if you wanted to. I mean, it would be your album, your folio. So you do whatever makes you happy and what works for you. Okay? So we're going to make this feature now. So what I've done is I've cut my base. It is 6 inches wide, as that one is, because I'm going to be making 2, and about 7 inches tall. What I'm going to do is make now the pages that cascade down this base and adhere them all down onto here. And then this is where I would put my tape and my ribbon on the back, and then adhere it down into my album base or folio base. What I've done is I've already cut everything out, and I've already folded everything except for this one. So it's the same principle on all. Mine has 8 of these cards. And what I've done is I've cut them 6 inches wide, and all mine are going to be 4 inches down to put photos on, a 4x6. But I cut mine then a 1/2 inch taller so that I can have that hinge where I have gone through and scored it a 1/2 inch. I always make 1/2 inch scores. There may be an exception, but very rarely. So what I'm going to do is just fold this back on itself. Remember, I fold, there's a valley here where I pushed in the paper to make that score line. And on the back, then it pushes up. So that's my mountain. And I always fold it over itself on the mountain side. I just feel like that gives me a cleaner edge at the top. And when you burnish it down, it just makes it a little flatter. So I am just going to fold this down, and I always start in the middle. Get my spatula, burnish that down or crease it down really well. And this is my hinge. So I am going to be applying my glue here on this hinge edge. Glue it down onto my base, and that way then it flips up like that. So this is my hinge system. So I have 8 of these pages. What you want to do is to make it cascade onto itself. You're going to put every one of the next pages up against this hinge, showing the hinges down throughout the cascade. And what that does is make sure that since the next page is going to go down a 1/2 inch below, because I'm not going to put it on the hinge, go 1/2 inch below, then that's going to give you a 1/2 inch here that is show, and a 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch, 1/2 inch. And that's how you get your cascade. Okay? So let's do that now. One thing you want to do is make sure that you get good clean cuts using like an X-Acto knife and ruler or something like that, and get a nice clean cut, because you want all these pages to line up with your base so that they're in a row and neat and professional looking. So I have cut mine out with a paper trimmer that has a blade that slides down a strip to guide me. But sometimes I do use my finger blade or X-Acto knife to make those cuts. Whatever you have available, you don't need to go buy anything expensive. So it's real important is to put the first one down straight as you can, because then every other one is going to line up with that one. And you want it to be the first one to be as straight as possible. So now I'm going to get my Barely Art Precision Craft Glue, and I'll take out my pen that keeps the nozzle from drying out. And I'm going to apply only on the hinge, the part that I folded back. And then I'm just going to zigzag the glue onto here. And you don't want to put so much that it's going to seep out too much. I always have glue seeping out. But you want to put it on there so that the edges are going to have glue on them. See, I'm getting it on too close to the edge. And now I'm going to just put this on, and I'm going to put it even with the top. So I'm going to pick up my page, and I'm going to put that on. And what's so good about wet glue is it gives you a little bit of wiggle room so that you can adjust your page and slide it into place. Okay, so I'm just going to eyeball that and put that on. Press that down, and let me make sure that as it runs down the edge here, okay, I see that's got a little bit of overhang over there. Did you see me slide that? I just slid that page so that edge is on and that edge is on. Now I'm going to burnish that down to spread that glue out real well. I'm going to open this up, and I don't have any glue that's seeped out here. So let me just burnish that down real well to make sure that there's that adherence between the two papers. And so there we have our first flap of our waterfall that will flip up. Okay, so now I am just simply going to do that with 7 more pages. So I'll show you how I put this down next. So I'm applying my glue to only the hinge, making sure I get it on. And you can see here, I know there's no contrast because I'm actually making a real album and it's a black base. But I'm going to line this top edge right where that hinge ends. And see, that gives me that 1/2 inch space so that this page will be 1/2 inch longer than that one. Now let's make sure that I've got the edges on right. Okay, it looks lined up there. So I'm going to put this down, and I see that this edge and this edge looks good. So you can see there's no overhang here. But what I do is I also flip it up this way to make sure that this is also lining up along here. Because when you flip the pages open, and if there's any, if it's turned a little bit sideways, even a 32nd of an inch, it will kind of go, as we say in the South, cattywampus. So I'm going to burnish that down because that actually looks really good. And then I'm going to keep doing this on here. And what I'll do is I'll speed this part up so you don't have to watch me glue everything down in real time. But I'm just going to put this so that it is right where that other hinge stops. Line it up. Line it up that way. I have some seepage. Wipe that off. That looks good. Yep. Okay, I've come to the last page, and I'm going to do this one a little differently. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and adhere my glue to this, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to place it over the hinge above it. So I'm going to place it like this. And what that does is when I flip up then I don't have an edge down here on my base, and this can be another photo spot, and it leaves it real clean. So what I'm going to do is apply my glue, kind of zigzag that on there, make sure it gets where it can spread out to the edge. And I can see I've got it close to the edge. And I'm going to put this hinge on top of that hinge and keeping it straight as I can, checking, making sure that it's lined up correctly. But what you want to make sure is that you don't go above the fold on the page above it. You don't want to interfere with this hinge. So see, that isn't interfering. I can still do that. This looks lined up. Now let me make sure it's lined up when I go this way, and it looks good. That looks good, looks in line. And I will burnish it, and I'm going to come down and burnish it again. And see, you can't tell that there's two hinges here on top of each other. This one still flips up fine. This one flips up fine. And then you have a clean photo mat here that you can decorate and add an extra photo here. Okay, so now I just close this, and you can see there is my waterfall. I'm going to burnish this on the back because what I'll do is put double-sided tape and my ribbon on the back. And getting this back pressed down, just make sure that it gets good and flat and good adherence. And there you go. There's your waterfall. Thank you for joining me for this waterfall feature, and I hope you have good luck and success with your waterfall feature. Let me know if you choose to make one and how it turns out. Thank you.